Calhoun, Anthony Cicino, and Lady Santana. Thank you for coming. Red Bank Councilman Ben Forrest.
Yay.
Thank you for being here and taking the video. And former Neptune officials, mayors Pat Monroe, Nick Williams, and Jim Manning. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all of our elected officials in Monmouth County, and hopefully I didn't miss anyone. Again, I'm Rachel McGreevy, Mayor of Neptune City, and I'm honored to be here to welcome New Jersey's next governor, Mikie Sherrill. As the mayor of Neptune City, I am the first woman to be elected in the history of our town. I'm also the first Democrat to ever be elected mayor in Neptune City history. With help from a lot of people. So I know a little something about breaking through that glass ceiling. And I have to say, when I see Congresswoman Sherrill stepping up for us in this race for governor, I love what I see. A Navy veteran, a federal prosecutor, a hardworking Congresswoman, and most importantly, a wife and mother who cares about her family and New Jersey's families. I'm enormously proud to support a woman candidate for governor whose qualifications, quite frankly, outpace every single candidate in this race. Yet in this race, it appears Mikie will be held to a higher standard than the other candidates. And unfortunately, that's the environment she's taking on, but that's okay, because we know a few things about Mikie Sherrill. We know she shares our democratic values. We know she has crossover appeal because she's done it. She's outperformed other Democrats in red parts of her congressional district time and again. And we know she is the smartest candidate with the broadest experience in and out of government and capable of winning the primary and the general election and governing. And this is important because she is the smartest candidate, but she's not going to beat you over the head with it like some others. So I do want to say she will govern in a style that New Jersey needs, with toughness, fairness, vision, and persistence, and yes, smartness. So I'm excited to hear from Mikie today and for welcoming her into this part of Monmouth County. Thank you so much for taking the time on a Sunday to be here with us. We want to hear from Mikie. Enough from me. We want to hear about your vision for the state of New Jersey, the Democratic Party. Please welcome Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill.
Thanks so much. Wow. Well, full disclosure, I don't want to put out fake news. I'm not a member of the Mensa Society, so just FYI, I was a helicopter pilot. But competent, I'll take most competent. But it's wonderful to see all of you guys today. I really appreciate you coming out. I've been really thinking about what it is that's troubling me about the current administration. Because I know that sounds funny, right? You're like, oh, what's not troubling? No, there's a lot going on. There are a lot of things that I disagree with or I'm concerned about, but I was trying to think, what at the heart of it is the thing that's keeping me up at night? What is it that is making me so uneasy? And I'll tell you, when you spend your formative years in the military, when you're getting the crap scared out of you every day on a daily basis from the time you're in your late teens and throughout your entire 20s, you don't scare easy, right? There's a certain level of toughness, and then you go on in your life and have 4 kids, and you just almost develop a heightened level of getting scared that's a little beyond, right? But what scares me when I think about this, and what's troubling to me and what's upsetting and what's keeping me up at night, is that at the heart of what this country has always represented to me has been this idea that everybody has a fair shot. That it doesn't matter who you know or how much money you have or who you can pay off. But it's about what you can do. It's about how hard you're going to work. It's about how much you care about your community and your country and how much you're willing to invest in it. And I think about that because, quite frankly, my family didn't come over on the Mayflower, right? My dad grew up pretty poor in West Virginia. He was the first person in his family to go to college. My mom grew up in a union family, and she was the first person in her family to go to college. And so middle class backgrounds, nothing special. We didn't know the president. We didn't donate $250 million to any presidential campaign in my family. And yet, because I grew up in this country, I knew that I was going to get a fair shot, or in all the ways I might not, I knew that I could work hard and make change. And so when my dad told me when I was in the 5th grade that I probably couldn't become a Navy helicopter pilot because he didn't think that the Naval Academy took women, or he didn't think that I could go into aviation as a woman, that actually didn't really it didn't trouble me at all. As a 5th grade girl, I thought, okay, well, that's something I'm going to have to fix, right? Because that's what this country represents. And that's what this country has represented to so many people. This idea that even though this country was founded by white slaveholding men, in place, in the very foundational documents of this country, was the idea that we could advocate for change, that we could make a more perfect union, that we all could have a fair shot. And what's troubling to me right now is this idea that we're backing away from that. This idea that some of the things I learned about the Soviet Union as I was growing up, that you couldn't say anything against the government without fear. You couldn't practice the religion you wanted, or you couldn't have the job you wanted, or you couldn't start a business without somehow being connected. I remember thinking, man, I'm so glad here we all have a fair shot, that we can make of ourselves what we want to make. I remember even watching the Olympics and being told, you know, as young kids, you're measured and told which sport you can play. You don't get to just pick a sport. The Soviet Union decides you're going to be an ice hockey player, you're going to be a gymnast, you're probably going to be in the band. They were looking at me. So, you know, right now, we have this fair shot that's being eroded. And I was told that some people that were talking to me about an elected official, and they said he didn't want this business to start, so he suggested that we should get authorities to investigate them. Not because they had any wrongdoing, but because he wanted to shut them down. And now they were worried with Trump in office that he could actually make that happen. I'm worried because I see that when you pay $250 million to the president's campaign, you get the keys to the kingdom and treasury and can enrich yourself for I don't know how long. I'm worried because I'm seeing people backing away from reporting things or talking about things or going online with their views because they're afraid they're going to be punished by this administration. And that scares me because that's what I fought my entire life against. I tell people I've taken more oaths to the Constitution than I can remember. When I was serving in the Navy, when I was a federal prosecutor, and when I've been in Congress. I now have a daughter who's serving in the Navy, and I'm worried about her. And I'm worried about whether or not she's going to be punished because she's my daughter and I'm a Democrat. Is that going to work out for her? I've never thought of that. In fact, when I was in a helicopter squadron, I couldn't have even told you the political affiliation of the people I worked with. I didn't really care. I just needed them to be really good helicopter pilots or really good mechanics. I didn't really think, I never had, as I kind of say, we never had Democratic missions or Republican missions. When I'm going around my district and I'm trying to address flooding, and we have some of the worst river flooding in the nation, when I'm going to address flooding, I don't say to the mayors, okay, did you vote for me? How much did you donate to my campaign? It's never crossed my mind because my job is to deliver for people. My job is to make sure your house is safe when the river floods. My job is to make sure we desilt and desnag that river so it never does again. So that's what's scaring me right now. And when we think about how we're moving forward, and when we think about what we have to do, build houses and lower costs for people, making sure that we're investing in schools so it's not just by zip code that you can get a great education, ensuring that our kids who are so online are protected online, and that their mental health is addressed, and that if they're falling behind, they have high-intensity tutoring. As we're looking for all of these things that we want to do here in New Jersey, to me, that all revolves around giving people a fair shot, an ability to make it here. And we know, because we've done this for as long as I can remember, that by doing that, we create a better opportunity for all of us. Paul Wellstone a former politician was famous for saying, when we all do better, we all do better. And I believe that. And so that's why I'm running for governor. Because I want to make sure, because I want to make sure that in New Jersey, people have a fair shot. So I'm running to be governor for all of you, but I'm also running to be governor for all the MAGA people in the state of New Jersey. I'm running to be governor for all the people who don't vote for me, as well as the people who vote for me. I'm running to be governor to give everybody in the state a fair shot and to make sure all of our kids thrive, and to make sure all of our kids have great opportunities, and to make sure all of our kids have a future that we can be proud of. So I just want to thank you guys for coming out today. I sincerely appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Congresswoman. We are going to entertain a couple of questions. So, yeah.
You were asking for questions?
Questions, yeah.
Yeah, so Congresswoman, I'm not sure if you know, but I believe that our current governor has put a ban on collective bargaining, which is going to affect our teachers, our firefighters, and our police, to name a few. So I'd like to hear, I think I know your answer, but I'd like you to share with all of us your opinion of that.
Look, I am a strong supporter of unions. I believe that the reason that I am in Congress today is because my grandpa, after World War II, got out of the military and got a good job on the factory floor of General Motors, became a UAW member, and because of those collective bargaining rights that I believe in, because of that ability, he was able to advocate, along with his union brothers and sisters, for a good paycheck, for good benefits, so that when he and my grandmother got sick, they didn't bankrupt our family. So I believe deeply in the ability of unions to not only invest in workers who are in unions, but create enough change for all of us so that we benefit as well. So I'm a deep believer in unions and collective bargaining. Thanks. So I have never taken money from Elon Musk. SpaceX has historically, maybe hold your applause. SpaceX, the space company, has donated in the past to my campaign. And I will just tell you what I have always committed to people is that I'm working for you. So I sometimes facetiously say that no matter who donates to me, what that sometimes buys you is a phone call for me to say, I'm so sorry today, I'm going to be voting against what you just asked me to do. So, and I work hard, you know, we have a lot of different interests in New Jersey. I work hard for jobs, but my vote is always for all of you, and it's not for sale. Thanks.
Councilwoman Karlovich.
Okay, so not speaking just for my town, Neptune City, but I know towns all over New Jersey. I'm just wondering, as governor, what can you actually do to help make up the funding, the state funding that's been cut, the federal funding that's being cut for our schools? Because with state funding being cut, federal funding being cut, our taxes are being raised every single year exponentially because the Board of Ed needs this money to pay their teachers and pay their bills.
So that's a big question involving, if you didn't hear, what's going to happen if we get federal funds cut, and what about the fact that we've seen so much of our budgets and our municipalities going to our schools and that going up every year and raising property taxes. So if the federal government withholds funding, congressionally appropriated funding, for our schools here, then we need to fight back, and I think we need to look at ways of withholding federal income tax here in New Jersey so that we can fund our schools here. So we are looking into that. It's complicated how that might operate, but I think that's going to be the way it goes. If they illegally withhold federal funding, then we will withhold the federal taxes. Second of all, as far as, so I hear two things when I'm going around New Jersey about costs. I hear a lot of things about costs, but the two things I hear the most are property taxes, complaints about property taxes, and complaints about the cost of houses. And so those are two of the things that I am really looking to address as governor. I will say we have affordable housing requirements in the state that have been on the books for 70 years, and we still don't have enough affordable housing. So I think we really need to take a hard look at what we are doing in the state to address that. And then we also, because the way it sometimes gets addressed is what's called a builder's remedy. And so in order to defray the cost of affordable housing, builders build large luxury apartment buildings and then have a couple affordable there. So we're not getting enough affordable. We also have these luxury apartment buildings. So now what we have is what I call the missing middle. That's sort of workforce housing, the places where teachers and cops and firefighters would move in to the towns they serve. The houses, what I say is the people that build the houses should be able to live in the houses here in New Jersey that we build. So looking at that carefully and how we do it, because we also, as you've heard about the river flooding up in North Jersey, we also have floodplains. We also have open space issues. We also have the most densely populated state in the nation. So I think we have to look at remediating already built upon spaces. If any of you are soccer fans, if you know where Sports Illustrated Stadium is, it's across the river from Newark. It was all warehouses. And because of federal tax abatement plans, builders were able to remediate that and build the soccer stadium. It's connected to the PASS station. It also has housing. It has restaurants. It's a beautiful development in a space that was underutilized but already built upon. We see those spaces across New Jersey, which is why I think we need to give tax abatement plans for that and grant money to remediate those properties so we can build out the workforce housing we need and make sure we're doing it in a way that's responsible to the environment and to our open space issues. That is the housing issue that I hear, but back to the property tax issue, in municipalities, sometimes up to 70% of the property taxes are school taxes. And we run some of the nation's best public schools, and we don't want to back away from that. We want to invest in teachers. We want to invest in our school buildings, which, oh, by the way, many are over 100 years old and falling apart. In my town of Montclair, the high school stairway collapsed, having people out of classes for months at the end of the year. In Patterson, we had an elementary school ceiling collapse, so we need to do that as well. So where is the give? I would suggest shared services for some of the administrative costs, so the person that's doing insurance. There are some school districts that are losing people. We're probably at the height of some of I have a 2007 baby, that was the baby boom. So now we're probably going to be going down with students. And so some of these very small districts, I think we need to look at the administrative cost of running them so we can share some of those services and defray the cost of the schools there. So those are some of the ways in which I think we can address property taxes, in which we can address housing, and in which we can address the withdrawal of federal funding from our state.
Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman. One last question. Any last question before the Congresswoman does have a few minutes to circulate before she leaves? We'll give you the last question, sir. Go ahead.
Hi, Congresswoman. Tom Werder from Denville, and I run the Morris Arts in Morris County. Obviously I'm concerned about the arts and what we can do to preserve the arts. We know that in the state of New Jersey, the arts are supported by the hotel motel fee, but the administration of the State Arts Council is funded by the National Endowment for the Arts, which is under fire like everything else at the federal level. What can you do to help support the arts at the state level and also in the federal government?
So, I'm such a strong believer in the arts, and it's not only something that I think is important for people, especially as we see the complicated mental health issues. I know that I've been a supporter of arts in the armed forces for people who are suffering from PTSD, and how getting into arts helps them express things that maybe they can't talk about, and really can be part of the healing. It's something that we want all of our children to have access to, especially as we see them so online. Getting them into the arts can be so helpful mentally for so many students. So I'm a big believer in that, but it's also a huge industry in our state. IATSE is one of the biggest unions in my district, so making sure that we are getting as much funding into the arts, where we've seen the governor do the Netflix studio here and how many jobs that'll be. So we really have a lot of ways we can build this out. The National Endowment for the Arts, I'm really worried about it. Again, if there is congressionally appropriated money that's illegally being withheld, then we have the ability to attack it with our own federal funds going out of the state and trying to claw them back. But that is going to be on the chopping block, I would assume, almost immediately, especially given that Trump has just fired the whole Kennedy Center board. So I think that's going to be a real problem going forward that we're going to have to fight back with, so we can promote not just, I think, all the great ways arts just helps humanity, but also the very particular business aspects of it here in our state. So thank you so much. I'm going to get around. So if you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer them. And I just want to thank you guys so much for coming out today. I appreciate it on such a yucky day. Thanks.